Get to know our Aboriginal brothers and sisters. By Christopher Breen. Staff writer. Most non-Aboriginal people know little about their Aboriginal brothers and sisters. If you Googled the word Aboriginal looking for a definition, you would find two. As an adjective, of human races, animals, and plants, inhabiting or existing in a land from the earliest of times or from before the arrival of colonists, indigenous, and as a noun, an Aboriginal inhabitant of a place. If you ask Canadians, most would say an Indian or native. A Wikipedia article, however, says Aboriginal people in Canada are the indigenous peoples of the Americas within the boundaries of present-day Canada. The Aboriginal Affairs and Northern Development definition refers to peoples who first lived in an area before European explorers first arrived at that place. In Canada there are three identified groups of Aboriginal people: First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. A national household survey in 2011 was completed to see exactly what portion of the population of Canada was Aboriginal. First Nations, the largest of the Aboriginal groups, has a population of 851,560, followed by Métis at 451,795 people, and finally there are 59,445 Inuit people, totaling over 1.4 million people, according to the survey. Most of the time Aboriginal people are placed under a single category, Native American, but there are differences between First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. First Nation Aboriginals lived in North America from coast to coast but south of the Arctic. Inuit Aboriginals lived along the northern coast of Canada and on the islands in the Arctic. The Métis, however, are different because they are the descendants of the First Nations members and European settlers. Each group has its history and culture, including the foods they eat, the languages spoken, and beliefs. According to Statistics Canada, there are more than 60 Aboriginal languages spoken regularly among over 214,000 of the 1.4 million Aboriginal Canadian. Among First Nations there are more than 50 distinct groupings, and the Inuit have many dialects within Inuttitude. The Métis people speak different First Nations languages such as Cree, Ojibwe, and Chipewyan, as well as a language that evolved from their ancestry, called Mi'kmaq. The most spoken Aboriginal languages in Canada are Cree, Inuttitude, and Ojibwe. Two terms commonly used when referencing Aboriginals is reserve and band. A reserve, or reservation, is a piece of land, held by the Crown but set apart for a band to use and benefit from. A band is a group of Aboriginals who use and benefit from the land set apart by the Crown, or who are declared a band for the purpose of the Indian Act. Each band has a governing council consisting of a chief and councillors chosen by the community through elections and, sometimes, customs. Bands generally share the same values, traditions, and practices passed down through their ancestral heritage. Today, bands prefer to be known as First Nations. Religion for Aboriginal people is important as they are religious and spiritual, with complex social and cultural customs when dealing with something that is sacred or supernatural. Religious mythology and ceremony are rich in tradition in most areas across Canada, and there are many spectacular manifestations that are religious in nature. In Aboriginal mythology there are three main types important to the religion of Aboriginal people: creation, trickster, and transformation. Another important part of Aboriginal culture is the guardian spirit quest, which once occurred throughout most of the groups of Aboriginal that live in Canada. Males, when they reached puberty, and other important times in life, would travel to remote areas to fast, pray, and purify themselves. The goal of the spiritual quest was to have a vision or an encounter with a guardian spirit, an animal or mythological figure. Guardian spirits are represented in totem pole and mask carvings, songs, painting, house, facial and body, or in religious items.